All right, so in the shoe game, a Cordwainer and a Cobbler have different skills. Mathieu Vaughan is going to explain the difference as well as show us his line of custom sneakers. We welcome you to the show. Morning.
Good morning.
How are you
Thanks.
doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. So tell me what a Cordwainer is and tell me what the difference is between a Cordwainer and a Cobbler.
So the main difference is that a Cordwainer is somebody who manufactures shoes from scratch, typically handmade. A cobbler is a person who's trained to repair the products of a Cordwainer.
Okay. And there are some people who can do both?
Yes.
Okay. Are you one of those people?
Yeah, limited to a degree. There's some skills that Cordwainers have, tricks of the trade that a cobbler doesn't necessarily have, and vice versa.
So you would be more a Cordwainer?
Yes, Cordwainer.
And so tell me about, we're going to talk about the line, but you love of shoes generally, or you love of sneakers because of your love of basketball? Which one?
So it started as a love of sneakers, and then as I started to learn more and more about the process of making shoes and making shoes by hand, I started to gain an appreciation for shoes from a ton of different perspectives. So boots, loafers, slippers, sandals, heels, all of it. And just the way to make the different kinds of things is very fascinating to
When
me.
did the love start?
Boy, so I started loving sneakers, I want to say, like when I started to play basketball, like around first form time, so like 2005, 2006. But then the love changed to shoes when I was in school overseas, so around, call it 10 years ago, actually.
This is Savannah College of Art and Design in the US. And so what did you study there?
I studied industrial design with a focus in footwear and a minor in accessory design.
Ooh, what was that like?
It was an intense course. There were some very long hour weekends where you're producing hundreds and hundreds of designs and learning how to not get attached to any particular one as well, and learning how to operate in a team environment. So it's a very, very fulfilling thing.
It's interesting to hear you say that because when you can choose, Matthew, we don't really think about, look hard for make, you know what I mean? But for somebody who studied it, and know the ins and the outs and every stitch and every, it's a complicated process, is it safe to say?
It can be a complicated process, particularly when it comes to getting to nailing fine details that make a difference between something being viable as a production thing versus something just being a great concept.
Gotcha. So tell me how you're going to make yours viable and make it be outside of a production concept. You're wearing a pair of your shoes now. Your company is called Kingston Cordwainer's Atelier. Am I right?
Yes, that's
What
correct.
does atelier mean for the folks?
So atelier is it's a traditional word for a workshop.
Okay.
And I included atelier because I wanted to focus on tradition in terms of not using automated manufacturing processes, keeping things handmade.
Yes, and I said to you before we came on, I said, Matthew, that's sustainable. And you said, what do you mean? Of course it is, because this is how you're going to build out the company. You're going to scale and scope using people you have trained to use their hands. You're not automating anything.
That's correct.
And why have you decided to go that route?
Well, one of the biggest issues that I have with automated footwear is that the automation process kind of removes some of the ability to build things in the most durable and traditional construction methods.
Gotcha.
And using different kinds of techniques that the machine, or materials that the machines don't necessarily accommodate, as are better executed when done by hand.
Okay, so you have different stages of the shoe here. Can you talk me through?
Right, so on the furthest right is when I very first started playing with the idea of incorporating our ancestral diaspora and our history into footwear. So that project was called Taikon. So it's a mixture between Taino for our indigenous Caribbean Indians, and then Akan, which was the language spoken by the Ashanti Africans, which were forced migrated here.
Very cool.
So I took inspirations from the different symbol languages from the two in reference to the different gods of creation, as well as some reference to the seafaring lifestyle of both cultures, and incorporated that into that shoe. Then next to that is a process of developing, or this is where I first started developing the shoe for KCA. So I was looking at, Zymaka, land, wood and water, trying to blend. Excuse me?
Is this Burda?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I had an idea to use recycled coffee bags as part of the construction, and it's not something that I've completely abandoned, but I want to better implement it because I was starting to practice and work on it, and it was tearing. So.
Trial and error, my friend.
Exactly. I'll bring it back eventually once I figure out how to do it right.
Okay, very cool. So over here now is Tell me about that guy.
Right, so this is getting closer to production. This is actually part of a pair. This is where I switched from the burlap into using canvas instead, since it was more durable. And this is when I was playing with more finishing elements, so like adding in the piping, adding painted edges and glossed edges, different constructions for the liners, metal eyelets, which I later went back and added to most of these.
So how long did the process take you?
I've been working on it for about a year, and I've gone through, this is only a handful, I've gone through maybe 16 variations of this in that time. It's really just been a process of fine-tuning small details down to every last bit of how I put things together so that the final product is as polished as it can be.
And tell me about the one on your foot now. Is that done, or are you still?
So the one on my foot is, I want to call it like a 95%.
Talk to me about it.
So this is the Hiko, is the name of the model. So it's a mixture of the words Hekiti, which is the Taino word for one, and then Bako, which is the Akan word for one. So number one fusion of both things, tying in again to the Taikan project that started it all. And the shoe is, inspired again by Ashanti and by Taino symbol languages and so on, and the element of water that was important to both lifestyles. As far as this particular construction is concerned, I plan to offer the Hiko in 2 builds. So number one is the one that you see on my feet. This is what we call a cup sole sneaker. So it's a more traditional sneaker construction, and it features something very important, which is the Blake stitch. Blake stitch is going to be a big part of making the shoe resolable and extending the lifespan of your product, so that when you eventually do wear out the soles, you can take them to a cobbler. That the cobbler can pull the soles off without you losing any structural integrity from the rest of your shoe.
A little bit of science and engineering in there, man.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay. So as I know, where are the shoes available if people want to purchase?
Well, you can see my Instagram. The Instagram is at KCA Footwear, and the website is in development. It should be up by the end of the week.
Okay.
But you can also send me an email, matthew@kcafootwear.com.
Okay. Shoes that Matthew is making by hand and his team by hand, so customized for you with a lot of love. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
This line.
Thank you.
I love to see this. You know me love shoes. So footwear designer and founder of Kingston Cordwainer Atelier, Mathieu Vaughan, with us this morning. Up next, it's He Said, She Said, I Said. We'll soon come back.